Hello, everyone, and welcome to OurVentura TV. I'm Sandra Siepak. On today's show, we'd like to welcome Dr. Tina Sadarangani. She is a PhD professor at New York University. She is also a board-certified adult and geriatric nurse practitioner whose expertise includes aging, long-term care, and cognitive health. I'd like to welcome her to the show. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Sandra, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be able to talk to your audience about this topic that's so near and dear to my heart, both personally and professionally.
Very good. Taking care of our loved ones and their healthcare needs as a caregiver can be a full-time job. You need a good support system. You need a good team around you to help. And that sometimes can be a little overwhelming for people. So I wanted to have you share today more about the important points to focus on for caregiving. So I'll let you start.
Yes, well, thank you for bringing attention to this topic because there's 53 million caregivers in the United States. And often when we're doing this, we think we're doing this alone, but there's many of us. And I think you've already touched on one of the most important points, which is that it is not meant to be done alone. Caregiving should be done not by an individual or even by a single family. I really believe it's meant to be done by communities, and it's
Sure.
so critical to formulate our own village. And I really want to thank you for the warm introduction you gave me. I will just say, in spite of all my degrees, the thing that has really prepared me the most to be on this, talk with you today is that I myself have been a caregiver. And so I understand, which I think a lot of clinicians don't, what it's like to be on the other side of the table and what many of us are going through. That sense of isolation, exhaustion, whether it's physical exhaustion or emotional exhaustion, that sense of overwhelm with all the multiple pieces going on and moving parts to keep track of. So there are so many aspects of this. You are an individual's biggest advocate. You are helping support their day-to-day health. You probably never signed up to do any of this. More than likely not, you have no
Right.
training to do this. And yet these 53 million caregivers, all of you, all of us, really are the unheralded and very fragile backbone of our healthcare system.
Right. And not only that, of taking care of a loved one, you have to take care of yourself so that you're in good shape to take care of those people around you that need caregiving. Um, Healthcare itself is a pretty wide, varied subject. You're dealing with a lot of things: doctor's appointments, medications, testing, constant caregiving. So let's start with that. Where do you begin, and what's the most important thing to pay attention to in caregiving?
Yeah. So, first of all, there's paying attention to yourself and your own
Right.
needs and
Yes.
prioritizing that. I know it sounds selfish, but let me tell you this. If you're the member of your family that has become the quarterback of this care team, chances are it's because you are either incredibly competent,
Right.
incredibly caring, or both of those things. And
Right.
I stress that because it is not selfish to take time for yourself in this process. In fact, it is absolutely necessary to
Mhm.
avoid burnout, to avoid physical exhaustion. As you know, I'm a researcher, and there's a tremendous amount of research that points to negative physical health outcomes as well as mental health outcomes, whether it's depression, chronic illness, development of cancers, that are all correlated with being a caregiver. And so
Right.
you cannot help someone else until you fully help yourself. And there is
Sure.
nothing wrong with putting yourself first and setting up those boundaries. So that really is the first and foremost priority as a caregiver.
Okay.
The second thing I would say is, and this is something I really specialize in, is keeping track of all the moving parts. Because as I said, and you are your loved one's biggest advocate, when you enter the doctor's
Right.
office, research has shown that you have approximately 5 minutes of an 18-minute visit to talk and get your
Wow.
ideas out. And what's really interesting is that healthcare has moved away from the doctor knows best model where you just listen to what you're told. Increasingly, we expect family caregivers and patients to be involved in their decision making. And we don't just tell them what to do, we
Right.
ask them, we involve them. And sometimes that means caregivers are making really difficult choices. So, what we expect of people, and I again did not realize the truth of this until I myself became a caregiver for my own father, is we expect people to manage diets, give multiple medications, watch out for signs of another possible illness,
Right.
take them to the hospital when it's appropriate, potentially monitor vital signs. All of this is expected to be managed by family caregivers. And
Right.
so it is so important that you keep track of all of that information that you're expected to keep track of in a central place. There's free apps out there that you can use. We happen to create one of them through our National Institutes of Health Research. But I really encourage and implore people to keep track of that place and keep track of that information in a central place, and involve and engage your family members and the people that are part of your village, so that you aren't keeping track and taking on that mental load on your own. And really, in our app, we build a care team. But as we said, I encourage everyone to build their care team and create their village.
And I think you have to, as you're mentioning, you really have to be a very strong advocate for asking a lot of questions, finding out information, asking why about certain testing or drugs that are being used, and just, overall, don't be afraid to ask and be an advocate. I think that really makes a difference for caregiving.
That is the most important lesson we can give. This individual best. As I
Right.
said, most of healthcare happens in the community. 99% of healthcare happens outside the doctor's office. They only spend an average of 18 minutes with you. You know this person. You know what an individual is like at home. You knew that yesterday your mother was dancing and super happy, and today she's slumped over in a chair.
Sure.
And important for you to mention that, to talk about baseline, and to be very proactive and state your concerns, because
Yes.
nobody will be able to do that as well as you.
So, as you mentioned, you're a caregiver as well, but you have so much experience in this field. What do you feel that the priority should be if you are overwhelmed, or you just feel you just have done so much and you don't feel like you're getting anywhere with doctors and nurses, and you're trying so hard, and many people do feel this. So. What do you do?
Such a great question. So this is where we need to figure out who's in our village and who's
Okay.
in our community. And that doesn't just mean if we have family or any, some
Right.
people don't have family, some people are only children. So here's what I recommend.
Okay.
Number one, Area Agency on Aging. Wherever you live, there is one.
Okay.
These individuals are your best resource, because there comes a time, as I said, that you should not, first of all, I don't think you should ever attempt caregiving alone. Area agencies on aging can help you find local resources that are affordable and
Okay.
available to help you on a day-to-day basis care for your loved ones. They can also connect you with social workers and other case managers who can help you figure out, what exactly are my needs? What is keeping me up at night with respect to my loved one's care? And how can we identify resources to do that, to support me in doing this? The second thing is, I encourage you to look into your communities, not just your family, but your friends, your neighbors, and be specific about your asks. My
Okay.
mother always said, no, not everybody is a mind reader. So really thinking through about what you might need and being able to say, I need you to come over twice a week for 2 hours so I can go for a walk. And the best thing I can advise you is that if you have somebody in your life who gifts you that free time to go out for a walk, to get some
Right.
exercise, and to connect with a friend or a loved one, because caregivers need and benefit from that connection. The
Right.
last piece of advice I will also give you is, there are geriatric care managers available, and you can look up their work, aging life care specialists, that they are specialized in helping families address this. And you can always engage your doctor or healthcare provider to help you figure out what resources you need and point you towards them.
Okay. So, in closing, I'd like you to give our viewers a better understanding of um, the job as a caregiver, and also, in the event that their work may need an extra added boost, as you're saying, all these resources are available. So don't be afraid to use them.
That's right. I think the caregivers are, it is a job. It's
Sure.
oftentimes a 24/7 job. And they say that caregivers in this country on average are doing 22 hours extra a week of work. That really does equate to a part-time gig. And so I want everybody to understand that it is normal to feel overwhelmed,
Right.
and exhausted, and that when you start to feel those things, that's when you know you need more support. Supports exist, and it's a matter of working and sitting down with someone to identify what those are. It is the only way to fill your cup, to set those boundaries, and to be able to do a good job of this. If it is your loved one's goal to stay at home as long as possible, then it really will take a village to support that. And I encourage every caregiver listening to not be afraid to ask for help. And if they can't find it from a traditional source, there are many, many places to look.
Good.
But do not attempt to do this alone.
Good to know. So if viewers are interested in contacting you, can you provide your contact information?
Sure. If any viewers are on Instagram or Facebook, I am on there as the Enlightened Caregiver. And I offer a lot of guidance to people listening about how to manage the day-to-day issues associated with caregiving, including, as you said, questions to never leave the doctor's office without asking. And as well as you can find me on LinkedIn at Tina-Sadarangani. And please feel free to reach out with any questions or comments or thoughts. We're all in this together.
Very good. I want to thank you so very much, Dr. Tina Sadarangani, PhD, and also board certified RN in geriatric care, which has been very helpful in giving us all a little bit more insight on caregiving and the best ways to help us all in this position. So thank you again for your expertise and for joining us on the show today. And thank all of you for joining us and being a part of Our Ventura TV. We look forward to seeing you next time. I'm Sandra Siepak. Bye, everyone.